5 years ago, I moved from city life on Oahu to country life on the Big Island and took on the challenge of building a DIY shipping container home that I'm still working on to this day. I'm Maluhia, or Hia if you like. I'm a native Hawaiian, an art enthusiast, a cat lover, an upcycler, a weirdo, a rain worshiper, and an expert at living on a budget. Oh, and did I mention I live off-grid? On this channel, I'll be sharing with you that experience, flaws and all, so you can learn from my mistakes. I'll also sprinkle in some art tutorials so you can make your house a home, and a bunch of ways to cut a budget so you're not married to your debt and are one step closer to financial freedom. This is the Modern Coconut. Let's be friends. As I'm going through all of this old footage and what life was like 5 years ago, I'm realizing more and more just how lucky I am, because this house took a village to build, and without, the support and help from friends, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done. So thank you to all of those who lent their support, their advice, and their hands in building this house. Aloha. So I fly out here 2019 and I take a look at my raw and rubbled land. We drive out to my parcel and it's been cleared. The guy did a great job on it. He dozed the driveway at an angle so you can't see the house from the street, so you have privacy. It's great. And this was all done while I was, before I even moved out here. He had cleared it, but enter hiccup number one. I wanted the landing pad of the house to be at 300 feet. And I get a call from him and he's like, yo, that at about 250 feet, your property takes a 6-foot dip. And we can fill that in, but it's going to cost more money. What do you want to do? You want to, fill it in, or do you want to adjust the plan? So we adjusted the plan and, I make do. No big deal. Just a slight hiccup. I mean, when you're buying land out here, and it's raw especially, there's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing if it takes a 6-foot dip or a 10-foot dip, or there's a lava tube under your property. That's just the gamble that you take when you buy raw land out here. So, hiccup number one may not seem like a big deal to you, but here's why it is. At 200 feet, my neighbor's front door is about 50 feet away from where my front door is eventually going to be. These lots, they're long and skinny, so it's not uncommon to have your neighbor right there. Luckily, I love my neighbor. He's awesome. We get along like gangbusters. And, it's nice to know that if shit goes down, he is right there. But I'm not going to lie. Sometimes when he has friends over, I can hear whole entire conversations. It's kind of like living in the city with thin walls in your apartment. But luckily when this happens, I go into bartending mode and I just kind of shut my ears off. I distract myself. I find something to do. I put my earbuds in. I'll go into the container, maybe pop on a movie. So it's not a huge deal, but in the scope of this being my forever home, wasn't the most ideal situation. So, all right, I'm here. Yay! I really only have a few friends. One being Justin, this guy that I used to bartend with in San Diego, who just magically lived out here. And he was the first means of support, because he let me stay at his house, and he, was there for the initial, very beginning days where we went on a mission to Home Depot to get these pier blocks. Pier blocks are just these little cement stubs that the container was going to be resting on. So we grabbed those and we're placing them, the proper width apart and making sure they're all level. And we get through one side, barely one side, and enter hiccup number two. The guy who's delivering the containers. One shipping container had all of my stuff in it from Oahu and had been delivered to the dock. And this guy's picking it up and dropping it off here. Well, he is backing down the driveway and we do not have everything in place. We're panicking and there's just so much pressure to get everything in place and level and the proper width apart, and we did not successfully complete that mission. So now the main living area of the deck isn't completely square. It is hamajang, which is a word we use out here in Hawaii to mean like crooked, messed up. So the main area of the house is not completely square, and it is slightly off. But what are you gonna do? It is what it is. Hello, hiccup number 2. One of the best parts of this plan, this build, this move, was actually the moving process. Because I decided to build a shipping container home, that meant that I could buy a container on Oahu and stuff it with all of my earthly belongings. So my furniture, my bed, my car, and 3 years worth of supplies that I had been hoarding in my backyard from Craigslist Free. They're just sitting back there pissing off my landlord. All of that got stuffed into a container. Then I was able to ship that container to my new city and have it hauled to my new location. Great, right? So great, because that meant that I didn't have to hire movers. I didn't have to rent a U-Haul and go down to the dock and unload and drive it up here and then load it out. Like, it was the biggest and best part of my plan so far. Not only that, but the container that got dropped off to my location was also going to be part of my home. Work smarter, not harder, y'all. So the container's in place, and I'm feeling really good about it until we realize that my car's in there. Enter hiccup number 3. So the container had been placed on those stubby little pier blocks, and they're about like 1.5 feet off the ground. So how the F are we gonna get the car out of there? So my friend Justin and I decide to build a rock ramp, since there's no shortage of rocks around here. And it seemed just as tedious as going down to Home Depot and renting a truck and a ramp and hauling it up here and bringing it back. And so we just spent the better part of that day in the sweltering hot sun Tetrising rocks to build these 2 little lanes for the tires to go down. But with situations like that, I'm not so bummed out, because at least there's a solution to the problem, and it's free. It just requires a little bit of sweat and tears. Just kidding. There weren't any tears, but there is a lot of frustration. All right, so the guys come out here. I fly out 3 of them, and my dear friend Nate buys his own ticket. Love you, Nate. Thank you for saving me a credit card charge. And, mind you, these guys are flying out here to do this out of the goodness of their heart, and I love them for it. Thank you so much, guys. Wouldn't be here today without you. So they come out, and aside from the hiccup of, the deck space not being perfectly square, they knock out a good portion of, what they could for the initial build. I have a few more friends who fly over, and it pretty much becomes a barn raising. So it was awesome, and I couldn't be more grateful. Thanks, guys. So the initial build is going well, And, I had planned for it, I had budgeted for it, I had strategized, I had done my research online through homedepot.com. And the mistake I made there was pricing everything with Oahu in mind instead of doing it with the Big Island as my home store. Because once we got out here, the plywood sheets were double, and I wasn't prepared for that. So I could only really buy a few sheets to get me from either side of the deck to where the door would eventually be cut out, and a few more sheets to accommodate the other side of the deck. So there were just these, massive gaps. You could see the joints of the deck, and it stayed that way for months until I could afford to buy some more, have it delivered, and, find somebody to help me install them. That was another hiccup. Something I wasn't, it's just you can't plan for the things that you aren't prepared for. There's always something. Step is the gate. And enter hiccup number 4. This is all lava rock, man. Ain't nothing busting through this thing without a heavy piece of machinery. So that's what I ended up having to do. Through a friend of a friend, I hired this guy to come out and dig me some holes. My friend Brandon and I slapped those gate posts in there with some Quickcrete, and the gate was done. You need a gate out here. Everybody has one. So the gate is super necessary. I mean, there's some wild, wild west shit that goes on around here. Thievery and people stealing things as large as water catchments. And I've heard of thieves cutting into shipping containers. And this one guy posted not too long ago that somebody had come down his driveway and stolen his plants. Who does that? Weird shit. Anyways, the gate is in place and has set my mind at ease. Phew. So a week or so later, the girls come out. Yay, I needed that girl time so bad. They come out and help me with things like, planting flowers and building a fire pit and painting one of the containers. And then enter hiccup number 5. James the Jimmy GMC, my car. The car that we so graciously, exited out of a container on a rock ramp decides to die, which is a massive hiccup. I had not prepared for that. I had not budgeted for that. And it happened while friends were out here. And I mean, this is country life, man. Like, it's a massive bummer. So, and the craziest part of this is that before the move, I had gotten an oil change, and my friend Casey, who's a mechanic, had done a bunch of repairs on it because I knew I wasn't going to know a mechanic out here. So the fact that James dies is such a bummer. And it forces me to have to invest and buy a new car, which sends the budget into a massive downward spiral. Okay, well, with the purchase of the new car, that meant that the budget is at a complete standstill, and I'm shit out of luck. So everything gets placed on pause. Take 159. Just kidding. I just keep redoing these videos over and over again because I see something stupid or I see something stupid in the background, but I just need to get over it. Anyways, that seems like a good place for us to press pause, and thanks for joining me this time around, and I hope you stick around for next week's episode when we go over installing the solar and the Wi-Fi and cutting out a door and a window. Yay. And getting that roof in place and a bunch of other random things that come along with any other home build. So I hope you're learning something from this, and I hope that I see you next time. So feel free to hit that subscribe button if you're getting something out of it, and if not, that's okay too. See you next time. Aloha.